Hey everybody, been thinking about this whole deal that we're going through here, everybody's going through, and it sounds to me like a psychological operation, a psyops, coupled with a false flag. That's what it is. And the more I sit here and ponder on it, the more I realize maybe what their agenda might be. Their agenda is to deprive people of what they normally are used to. Okay. And what happens when you're normally used to something? Well, the mind actually, it's an addiction. Okay, it's just like an addiction. Materialism, society at large, is basically a materialistic society. And people are basically materialistic because they think about what's going to make me happy, what's going to give me fun, what's going to entertain my mind, little mind excitation. Okay. And the more you think about it, the more you realize, or at least I do, that mankind is basically addicted to material things and going out to restaurants and going to the store and going to their favorite store and window shopping or just going down the aisles and looking at stuff they wish they had. It basically is something that preoccupies their mind a lot of the time, keeps them from thinking about maybe life in general. So what's happening now? Well, it's a giant psyops because what they're doing is this is a form of addiction that people are living their lives in a certain way, and it's also a trance. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that addictions and trances are good, but what I'm thinking about here is that when you snap somebody out of a trance, okay, or when you, let's say, deprive them of something that they're addicted to, what happens? Well, I'll tell you what happens. They get irritated, okay, and they get angry and they feel like, what the hell? I mean, what am I going to do now? Or what they come to they come to a point where this uh, process of alienating them from their fellow man and closing down businesses, it's going to get to a point where people are going to start to get irritated. Okay, and really, I mean, that's the consciousness that I'm feeling. Um, and is that a purposeful thing that they want to irritate people? Is it a purposeful thing that they want to push people over the edge? They make people first. They make people panic. Okay, first they make people panic. So what are they doing? Well, they're depriving them of. They're making okay. They're inculcating fear. Okay, they're inculcating fear with a supposed agent that is possibly going to kill them, whatever that agent is, whether it's 9/11 or a virus or whatever. So they fear for their lives, okay? But once they start getting over the fear, it starts wearing off the initial shock, shall we say. And they're ready to comply and do uh, everything and anything up until that point, okay? Um, as soon as they get over the shock, then they have to deal with the other situation that's going to come up on them, which is boredom and being addicted to certain things. Oh, I didn't go out. I don't go. I get to go out and get my ice cream tonight, or I don't get to go to Starbucks in the morning for my latte, and all the things that supposedly make them happy, but doesn't really make them happy because it's an addiction. Okay, But I can see, basically my point here is that I can see where this is going, okay? It's going to the point where people are going to get angry, and after they get angry and more angry, and uh, they're not getting any satisfaction with life anymore because their mind's not getting excited, they're going to flip out, okay? They're going to start to flip out. You're going to see more people maybe doing violent things. I mean, I don't want to see that happen. But when you use your intuition and discernment, okay, like I said in my last video, when you use your intuition and discernment, you can see the future. You can see where things are going. Now, do they want people to flip out? That's the question. Do they want people to lose it? Do they want people to start going off the deep end? And I got to laugh at these governors, okay, and these supposed shepherds of the common good, whatever they consider. Man, are they on an ego trip or what? I mean, they can push a little button or write out a little edict and tell everybody that they can't do anything that they wanted to do before and businesses and everything. Is that playing God? Is that like I'm God and I'm gonna? I mean, what an ego trip! What a selfish, self-centered thing to do. And they're doing it under the guise of, oh, it's good for the people, like I said in my last video. But it's not. Now, if they really, let's say their goal was to, some have said, and I believe too, that this could be a purposeful move to crash the economy, okay? Accomplish that agenda, get people to flip out and do a beta test, like somebody said on here. I agree with that. Do a beta test on somebody that on the populace and see how far they can take it. Okay, before people lose it. Okay. Now, all the time that they're doing this supposed thing, okay, that I'm talking about here, it's really hurting a lot of people that don't deserve to be hurt. Nobody deserves to be hurt. Nobody deserves to be manipulated. Nobody deserves to be enslaved. I don't care how stupid you are. I mean, most of these people are enslaving themselves, but nobody really deserves that. What they really deserve is to discover who they really are and their connection with the higher power. But um, they've been force-fed bullshit from day one, okay, about what life's really about when life isn't really about that, okay? Life is nothing like people think, okay? They don't even know about their soul. They don't know about their spirit. They don't know about transcending the physical and the mundane, and they don't know about meditation. They don't know about going into that higher level of consciousness, okay? They don't know about any of that stuff. And then you have so that's hurtful to them to play with their minds like this. Then you have the elders, okay, the elderly that are having a hard time getting goods and getting things that they need. Then you have the people in nursing homes that are being quarantined. They can't see their relatives anymore. I mean, this is a horrible freaking situation, people. It's a horrible situation. If they wanted to send a message, if they were had altruistic motives about, if they wanted to send a message that people need to back off on their materialism, you don't do it all at once. So that wasn't their motive. And supposedly their motive is trying to protect people with some kind of martial law type order. But if they had any sense at all, they would realize that you're probably going to do more harm to people. Okay. If they had intelligence, okay, if they thought with a higher consciousness, they would realize that this might do more harm to people, like I said before, just now, the elderly, young kids, depriving them of seeing their schoolmates. I mean, This goes on and on and on a psychological level. Okay. This could be very, very damaging to a lot of people. And also what happens is that when people get into this mode of being fearful all the time or not knowing what's around the next corner, it instigates, like I said in a previous video, the fright and flight syndrome, which shuts down your immune system and all essential organs. So people are in a state of what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And these idiots, these governors and presidents and powers to be, that are obviously in bed with the people that have the agenda, whoever they may be, the dark ones, the Illuminati, Hillary, whoever, you know, alls we know is that they are there. Okay. And so that's some of the ideas, you know, that I'm thinking about here. I always think outside the envelope. You know, I said this is a form of martial law probably before anybody. Then all of a sudden I start seeing videos about, yes, indeed, a lot of people are thinking that. Okay, so maybe I am tuned into that universal consciousness or that collective consciousness. Okay, and I feel things coming. Okay, I feel things coming. And so what next, people? A lot of these governors, they've declared like a 30-day lockdown or whatever you want to call it. What happens if after 30 days they go, well, you know, might be a little bit longer than that, and they keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, okay? It isn't going to fly, people. It's not going to fly on a level of the mass majority consciousness. I don't think it's going to fly. I think people are going to start going off the deep end. I don't want to see that. I really don't. If they had their act together, what they'd do is say, yeah, well, maybe that 30 days or whatever was a little bit long. Things seem to be getting under control. Yeah, it's okay for you to go back out now. Just be careful. If you want to wear a mask and gloves and all that stuff, yeah, go ahead, you know. And there's another point. Why wouldn't they just say, what's any different as far as protecting yourself from a virus? What's any different sheltering in or staying away from people? Why is that any different than if you wore a mask and gloves? Wouldn't that protect you too? Just saying, you know. I mean, I'm not an authority on infectious diseases and viruses and all that stuff, but neither is anybody else out there. So what does that tell you? What does it tell you? If nobody is an authority on infectious diseases and viruses and how you can get it and what tests you need to find out if you got it, and if you're not a biologist or a chemist, okay, do you know this stuff? Well, no, you don't. You don't know if they're telling the truth or not, do you? I mean, they could come out and say, oh, you know what? We did a test today and it confirmed this or that. And unless you know what that test is or whether you know that test is valid or whether that test was done in a double blind or however you do tests to make them valid, who says that just because they say it, okay, that it isn't a perpetuated lie? I mean, because like I said before, you tell a lie enough times and it becomes truth, you know? And then you tell, here's another spiritual, psychological warfare type thing. This goes way beyond what they put in the military books. This is what the dark ones use, okay, on a spiritual level, is that if you put something out there enough times, okay, the conscious buys it first, then it goes down into the subconscious, okay? And then in that whole spiral of how a person perceives things and how a person creates their own reality, okay, when it becomes a knowing in the brain and you buy into it totally, then you start creating that because we're all creators, okay? That's how life works, people, and most people don't have the spiritual knowledge to realize that the creator creates through us, but we also create and we can also manifest very strongly things that seem real to us. And I say seem real because nothing is real, really. Nothing is real. We're living in a holographic universe. We're living in a universe where everything is vibrating at certain speeds. Okay. Einstein, quantum physics. Look into it. Okay. If you don't believe me, even the quantum physicists have said that the person doing the experiment affects the experiment. Okay. So they're both one. Okay, we're all connected, we're all one. Here's another thing: what affects one consciousness is going to affect all kinds of consciousness, people's consciousness. Sorry, conscience and consciousness gets me sometimes, but um, that's the truth. That's the reality of it. The reality of it is this is a psychological operation or warfare on such a high level that it's unbelievable. I mean, people don't even know. Okay, unless you listen to people like me who do know. And does that make me better than you, or does that make me elevated above you? No, that just makes me a messenger. That makes me the person that is telling you. And oftentimes they kill the messenger, unfortunately. Um, just like they nailed Christ to the cross, Um, that's a fact, people. People don't like to hear truth. They don't like to hear what really might be going on. People are on this very low frequency. They're on the frequency of I call it the manipulation frequency. Okay, that's a good name for it. The manipulation frequency. Why? Because they don't think for themselves. Okay, and they're easily manipulated. They're easily hypnotized, mass hypnosis. So that's what this whole thing is. It's like a mass hypnosis, a mass change of consciousness. Okay, not for the better. Okay, it's not for the better. So anyway, those are some thoughts I'm having. Some thoughts about based on the Hermetic principles. Okay, of how the universe works. Okay. And those principles, which were originally instituted by Thoth, okay, the Egyptian god, who was later known as Hermes or thrice great Hermes by the Greeks, uh, unless you tap into the knowledge, okay, unless you tap into this higher level of consciousness, you are going to be manipulated. You're going to be manipulated, and you're not going to know what's happening to you. But how all this works is set down by early masters, okay, in the Egyptian culture and a lot of cultures, Hindu, um, East Indian, Egyptian, all the ancient mystery schools, all the enlightened ones know how this works, know about this stuff that I'm talking about how we create our own reality, how we're one with the creator. We just don't realize it. um and this was all of this knowledge was, again, it was taken by these people, but I digress there. I was going to talk about I was going to talk about the natural laws, the Hermetic laws. Okay, one of them is cause and effect. Okay, there's 7 of them: cause and effect, gender, mentalism, polarity, rhythm, so forth and so on. All these are natural laws that govern the universe. Okay. And I know about these laws, and a lot of people that study, or spiritual know about these laws, but they also know about them. The dark ones know about these laws. Okay. The majority of mankind does not know about these laws. That's unfortunate because they should. It's always been told to them that these laws are scary. They're occult. They're 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 Satanistic or whatever. Natural laws of the universe that you should know, as above, so below, that type thing. And so they use these as above, so below. Okay, put in a person's mind. Okay, put in a person's mind what we want there, and it'll manifest in their life. Okay. Put in a person's mind fear, and it'll manifest in their reality as fear, and bring more fearful things unto them. Okay. As they continually create. Okay. So this is exactly why people are being played. Okay, in this psychological operation. Pretty deep, isn't it? I mean, think about it. It's pretty deep. And again, you get back to that same thing that I was talking about in my last video, is like, well, what's their agenda with this? What's the end run? What is the final game? What's the game plan? What is it that they have in mind for people? Drive them nuts, push them over the edge, and then start mass arrests? Or was it just a beta test, like I said earlier, and somebody else said, is it just a beta test to see if or how far they can manipulate people without troops, without actual martial law, how they can manipulate people psychologically? Okay. I mean, I'd almost rather have the troops out there. Um, doing martial law, because number one, they don't have enough troops, so they would never be there. That's why they're doing this thing on a psychological level. Okay, that's why they're doing this thing on a psychological level. And this is I don't want to say the word sin. I want to say this is reaping heavy karma for whoever's doing this. It's outside of the natural law. It's outside of the order of things. It's outside of the love that you're supposed to have in your heart, the unconditional love for your fellow man. Okay, and so that's where you have to come from right now. You have to try to get to that place. You have to not let all these other people that are around you, maybe even your loved ones, buy into this. Or maybe they don't buy into it wholly, but maybe they buy into it a little bit. Okay. There is no such thing as little bit. Okay. You either buy into it or you don't buy into it. I don't buy into it. Okay. But when you're surrounded by people that, oh yeah, this is this is that, the coronavirus and the Wuhan virus and blah 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 blah, you keep hearing that thing over and over and over again. Is it hard not to buy into it? Depends on your willpower. It depends on your willpower, and it depends upon your spiritual knowledge. Okay. Depends upon your spiritual knowledge. Now, whether you buy into it or not, it's going to affect you because everybody else is buying into it, okay? And it becomes a collective consciousness, a dark collective consciousness, a fearful collective consciousness, a horrifying collective consciousness, a panic and fear, okay? a big dark cloud hanging over mankind. Well, you really want a bright sunny day, don't you, people? So what have people done? Well, they have given their power away by not having enough, and I won't say intellect, I'll say wisdom, okay? Enough wisdom and intuition and a higher sense. And that comes from intuition, that comes from the use of the third eye, okay? Uh, Raising up that energy in your spine to where you're opening up these chakras and other energy centers. Um, yeah, I mean that's what you have to do to realize that this is bullshit. Okay, that all this stuff is manufactured and fabricated and made up. So what should people be doing right now? Well, people should be thinking about um, how this world is illusory, okay, and uh, how they can look at it in a different context, okay, than the way they've been looking at it, and this will help them escape the fear and the anguish and the anxiety and the anger, okay. Uh, they need to look at it. They need to reframe it, okay, and realize it for what it is. And I think when they realize it for what it is, one of two things will happen. They will either have the patience to wait it out without flipping out and make it through whatever kind of test that they're laying on everybody. Or if it gets worse, then they'll have to realize that they need to really connect with that spiritual connection, that inner oneness with the creative force, okay? Because that's the only thing that's really going to stifle the outer illusory reality, okay? That's the only thing that's going to stifle that and give you some peace of mind. Do some breathing exercises, do some meditation, uh, get out in the air, okay? Do some breathing, be out in the air for at least 15, 20 minutes a day, okay? Digging whatever you can of nature wherever you are. And when you see nature, then that's when you realize, hey, nature's still going on. Hey, the sun's still coming up, it's setting, and wow, look at the mountains over there. Don't they look beautiful today? And oh, a little rain came down today, and the weather patterns still seem to be going on as normal. So what does that tell you? What does this tell you? It tells you that everything is in sync in nature, but outside of nature and in this lower third dimensional reality, it's dark and gloomy, okay, and it's horrific. So you need to change that and get into like, well, it's not really because look, the sun's still shining and I'm still breathing, okay, and I still have a consciousness, okay. So that's a start, people. And so there, I'll leave it today on those final those words of maybe helping to make you happy. And don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to breathe because when you hold your breath, it tenses up your body. Okay? And when you're under tension and anxiety and fear, what happens? Well, the first thing is your breathing becomes erratic. Okay, and it you tend to be tightening up and holding your breath. No, just breathe deep into your abdomen, people. Keep breathing and breathing and breathing. Take in that fresh air and that prana, that energy, that life force that surrounds us all in the ethers. And I'll say amen or Amen Ra to that later.